Okay, if it pops up for me, thank you. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna put it.
You posting it in media?
Yeah, I'm posting it. Alright, there it is. Okay, it's all set up.
My outfit looks so cool.
You look like you look like a Powerpuff Girl.
No, tell me I look cool.
Yes, girl. You look very intimidating. Okay, let's see. So we should. Okay. Should be all set up. Did you get the? You got the link, right?
I do.
Okay. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Okay, perfect. All right. All right. All right. We are all set. All right. Welcome everybody to our amazing podcast. Here's my co-host, Ricky here. Say hi, Ricky.
Hey.
Thank you, Ricky. And we also have
Always.
a special guest today. Okay, we got a special guest. Hero, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell everybody a little bit about yourself. You know, how long you've been playing WTR, etc.
Well, they're interviewing my character as Kendon Landa, right? Which I'm reprising my role as in this iteration as well, We That Remain Bastion. So, but I've been a member of the community for about, well, since the beginning of Red Dawn, and I've been a part of WTR since it began.
Holy cannoli!
Jeez, my God.
I mean, it hasn't been too terribly long, but it's been a few years.
A few years.
Well,
my
yeah,
God.
I mean, three. So the community is only about 3 years and 3 months old. 3 years and 2 months old, and I joined the community almost 3 years ago. We're very close. I'm getting close. So
sheesh. It's a long time.
Hero.
Hey, it was worth sticking around for. I love it. I love the community.
Guess how long I've been here for?
2 months.
5.
Wow.
Close, but no banana.
Not far off, yeah. No, but what?
Close, but no banana. Like, it's close, but no cigar. Close, but no banana.
Yeah, that's not a real phrase.
Oh, well, it is now.
All right. So, has this been like your first time ever playing a antagonist or a villain kind of character, or?
No, it's not. And I mean, so what differentiates this version of Kendon, right? Because again, like I said before, I'm reprising my role as Kendon, this iteration. But what differentiates him from Kendon Landa of WTR 2.0 is I've amplified and drawn back, de-emphasized a lot of the characteristics and traits of Kendon as a character. It doesn't matter what character, what type of character it is, I always roleplay organically. I always allow my character to change, and as it should, right? I always allow my character to change and shift, and adapt, and overall just develop and grow as a person over time. we're all susceptible to, having our minds be changed, having certain events influence our direction, our course, how we approach role play, etc., etc. I think you get the idea. So I never don't play a dynamic character. So the reason I wanted to bring him back this time around is because I felt that even though he survived 2.0, I felt that his story was really cut short. It was far too abrupt for my liking. So I decided that I was going to change certain aspects of his character while keeping the fundamentals relatively the same. He is the same character after all, but of course with de-emphasized and amplified characteristics, varying depending on not just situation but also like the character's backstory a bit as well. So, but yeah.
So, so you're kind of like giving people a chance. Is that what you're saying? Just to alter your storyline?
What do you mean?
Like, for example, you're not going you're not going into the iteration like having that mindset like I'm gonna be a dick, like you're kind of like giving people that choice. Like, so you're kind of saying like you start out at this neutral ground and you're kind of like, okay, I'm gonna give these people these tools. Let's see what they do to change my character as your character's story goes on, right?
Well, so again, with having dynamic characters, means that they're susceptible to change. That can be from anything, any external or even internal force, that is influencing that paradigm shift. You'll have, if you really invest yourself in a character, then you'll start seeing parts of you be sort of implemented into the character, whether that's inadvertent or not. I try and keep myself separate from my character. I try and keep my character in me as a person, IRL, two separate people. But I'd be lying if I said that there aren't remnants and certain aspects of my character in Kendon. So, but again, since we're in a fictional environment and we're playing as all these different people, different types of people, they're going to experience things far differently than how we would, and that's a given. But I feel that I have to iterate that because a lot of people refuse to separate themselves from their characters. They get too emotionally attached, which makes for a bit of stigmatism, when it comes to conflict. You'll have a sort of narrative that develops that you're getting really invested in, you're getting really attached to. You have this character that's doing really well for themselves. Everything that you've planned out for your character in terms of the iteration, whether that's short or long term, is going right for you. But then all of a sudden, you have this conflict. Oh shit! Did the server just restart?
Yeah. Keep going.
I think it did. Yeah.
Yeah, just keep going. You're fine.
Oh shit. Well, anyway, so excuse me. So again, the I lost my train of thought. Fuck. Oh yeah. Okay. So people will get really torn down. They'll get really what's maybe not disenfranchised. I was going to say disenfranchised, but they lose encouragement. They lose the drive to keep going on with the character, and they just drop everything because something went awry in their plans. One aspect, one one spec or detail didn't go according to their plan, and it either A, resulted in their character's death, or B, something detrimental to the character's narrative, and the direction you wanted it to go in has been disrupted. And that it makes for a stagnant RP. It's not good. RP has to constantly be changing. Otherwise it just remains stagnant and unmoving, and that's not life. That's boring. That's lifeless. That's actionlessness. and that's
Right.
never good. So it's not enough to just keep my character the exact same person, like to the T, but it also has to do with not just my decision, but also it correlates with the setting and time. Back in We That Remain 2.0, there was no prologue, but from there was a couple of years time gap between when the infection during the inception of the infection versus when we actually play in the iteration. So you have a lot more time, not just for Kendon, but of course all characters, all survivors. There's a longer amount of time that those people are exposed and subject to this new environment of lawlessness and uncivilization. They bear witness to all these very tragic and all these horrendous things that come with a barbaric environment. Basically the complete destruction of the world as they know it. So, that also very much impacted Kendon as a character. While this time around, in Bastion, there's only a 2-year time gap between the prologue and the main iteration itself. So he along with all the other survivors have been less exposed over time to the horrors of a world turned uncivilized. So that also plays a big part. That he's not as I guess like conniving or scheming, because that's the thing with we're talking about Kendon Landa 2.0 from WTR 2.0, not Bastion. That's what we're discussing. He was a lot more a lot more sociopathic. He was a sociopath, pretty much. He thought that what he was doing genuinely, at least initially, was good. His goal was to, basically kickstart the path towards the reconstitution of civilization and society. But the way in which he did it was it was morally conflicting. It was filled with unethical practices. Basically something that you would expect from someone living in an apocalyptic environment. So, yeah.
Okay. That's I think that makes a little bit of sense.
A little bit of sense.
I think
the server's back up, by the way.
Oh, good.
So, yeah.
To bounce off what you had said earlier about people who get very attached to characters and like plan everything from minute one. I think this is a big thing in when I play, for example, as an out of the We That Remain aspect. When I play Dungeons and Dragons with my friends, always like your character, you can't plan everything out. Like we tell people, like if you want to plan every step of the way out for your character, write a book. Because in something like
exactly, yeah,
like in something like role play, you can't plan out every step of the way.
It's impossible, right?
Last iteration, I played Kat, who started out as very cheery, very bubbly, very happy. I want to meet people, I want to love people kind of person, and by that was the idea I had started with, and by the end, she became very reserved. She became very cold due to the things that had kind of happened around.
Exactly.
You can't just like go into a game and be like, this is my character. For example, they're evil, and then say things happen to that character that would make them not be as evil. But you're like, no, I'm still evil. Like that's unrealistic. If you wanted to go that way, go write a book, go make a comic book, go do something. Don't just limit yourself and refuse to change because you have an idea set in place for what you want to do.
I wholeheartedly agree. It's impossible to, like, it's not only not sustainable, but it's very unrealistic that that you would actually see that play out the way you want it to. Like, it's good to have a plan, a general outline of what it is you want to do with your character. you know, that I mean, that's essential. Otherwise, you're just kind of wandering blindly. But again, like you said, I mean, I thought that was pretty funny. Write a fucking book, right? Like if you want to, if you you know, make a plan for literally every single step that your character will ever take. I mean, that's just, you have no way of really knowing that. You just don't,
Right.
because you don't know what the environment around your character will have in store for it, and you can't. And that's, and again, this goes back to the whole stagnant sort of negligence. You know, when it comes to external events playing out around your character, you'll have a lot of people that because they don't like how the narrative around them is developing, you know, outside of their character, they will simply refuse to let their character change with the environment because they don't like what's happening around them.
Right.
And that's an awful way to go about RP, because it not only brings down the experience for you, but it affects everyone else around you. You know, I mean, you're living in self-imposed ignorance. You know, you're subjugating your character to a very limited scope. There's very little that you can do with your character after you make that decision and just decide to be stubborn about it. You know, unmoving, completely unflexible. You refuse to adapt. That's not character development. That's not development at all. You know.
Right.
That's an awful way to go about RP.
Yeah, I definitely feel like you should, in a way, I guess, stay at that neutral level, you know, when you're first starting out as your character. And then I guess, like, you see things in the world that, I guess, change you. I think transitioning either from, like, a really good character or a really bad character, you just feel 10 times better just knowing that you invested that time and effort into whatever road you want to go down to, or whatever road your character goes down. Because, like, personally, I've made those kind of my first villain character, I made it like, okay, I know he's going to be a bad guy, let's just stick on the bad guy road. And I didn't really personally feel like I was really getting anywhere with that. So I definitely agree with, like, you know, having that kind of mindset when you're going into an RP situation. Like, I know you really want to be a bad person or whatever, or I know you really want to be a good person, but you also have to think about it like it's an RP server, you know? Like, you have to experience
You have to
life.
be open to things not going your way.
Yeah.
That's how life is.
And I think personally, and this it's not bashing anybody, but I think some people don't accept that kind of thing, and they kind of expect
That's exactly
that,
what I was talking about. Yeah.
they kind of expect like everything's gonna work their way, but obviously not. And I'm sure we've all had that mindset where it's like, oh, everything's gonna work fantastically, and we're gonna rise up in the top.
Oh well, I don't mean to toot your own horn, but I've never had that mindset.
You've
ever.
never?
No.
I've personally had that mindset.
Because it's unrealistic. Because it doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense. It makes no sense. It's impossible.
Yeah.
There is I mean, it's, sorry, let me correct that. It's not impossible. It is extremely improbable. So, you know, the chances of you going about the entire iteration, right, incurring absolutely no sort of, you know, negative consequence at all, not having to sustain any negative consequences of any of your actions or anyone around you, you know, their actions, basically nothing outside of your character having any sort of bearing on your character is extremely just unlikely. It's next to just impossible. I mean, yeah, that's why I'm saying it's impossible, because it's really just that unlikely. You know, there's just so many things working against you. It's a naturally hostile environment. It's an inherently hostile environment, not just from, you know, the zombies and shit, but you know, the obvious, like people actively working against you. I mean, and this is one of the things that makes RP so great, is not only, can you simulate how you would, generally how you would go about living in the apocalypse under the certain circumstances, with the atmosphere and environment that we play through with no real world consequences, right? It's great. But you can play out how people's ideas conflict with one another without any real world consequences. And I think that's one of the things that I love about RP is the intellectual aspect of it. Seeing people's ideas and their plans come into contact and conflict with one another. The battle of ideology. I think that's great. Because, I mean, RP done right, it's a breeding ground for that shit. It is. And that's what's happening that's what's happened in all previous iterations. You'll have one group that is, just as an example, fairly altruistic, actually a good example would be the Citadel. They're a fairly altruistic, virtuous group of neutral individuals. They're not biased towards any side. They simply want to go about living and helping those that pass through. That ideology or that disposition would come into direct conflict with people like the Seventh Seal. That they're very active. They're all about action. They're all about affirmative action. They're taking life and making something of it themselves, irrespective of anyone else that they may feel otherwise. They don't give a shit. They want to do what they want to do, and they don't care who is in their way. They're going to do it. They don't care. And as far as they're concerned, I'm just talking from what I've observed. But I mean, they see everyone that isn't a direct collaborator or a partner of theirs as an obstacle. Aside from maybe some of the traders like the Novikov brothers, but that's been just, but yeah, right. But I think we need to get back to WTR 2.0 before I accidentally slip and say something.
Yeah,
yeah.
No, yeah, I agree, but like personally, I've had that mindset where like, oh, what could possibly go wrong, and then obviously things go wrong. Yeah,
and that's great. That's what makes it great. That's what makes it exciting because everything can go wrong. Yeah, it's great.
And I know it's like a unrealistic mindset, but like I'm saying from like a personal experience, like I've had that point where I'm like, oh yeah, nothing's gonna bite me in the ass, and then you see like 3 weeks later you're fucking at the execution block about to get fucking shot or something,
Oh yeah, I've been in that position.
But like you know what I mean. I feel like personally, if you have that mindset, you have to be like put down a few times to figure like, okay, maybe I shouldn't think this way, like I personally had, yeah, like I've personally had to learn the hard way to figure out, gee, this isn't going so well.
By the way, I think you're hungry.
Oh yeah, I'm okay. Who cares? It's food.
No, let me get you some food. Hold on. My food just got here myself, so I'm I'm getting that situated here. Eat these.
Oh, thank you.
Right there.
Thank you very much.
But sorry, what you were saying?
Oh, I was just agreeing with you. That's all I was just saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe I've been playing DayZ for 7 years, right?
Oh my!
I've been playing it for 3.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've been playing it
basically as long as it's been out on console.
Yep.
I've been playing it for 5
But,
months.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I started playing back in 2015. I want to say the time I've spent RPing on DayZ has been about maybe 3 years. Back in... Actually, no. That's got to be longer than that. No, that's not even close. 5 years. Um, I'm not sure if you guys actually heard of it, but I was a member of Daisy Underground back in Daisy Alpha. I'm not sure. Have you heard about that server at all?
I don't think I have, no.
It was the pinnacle of Daisy RP at the time. It had so much going for it because of its members. You know, the people that would RP in it. It was, oh my god! It was such an amazing time. Like we had people just making full use of the formula given to them, right? Like not only making use of the game's fundamental openness, you know, in being an open world survival game, but I mean, you had people fighting over territory. You had tangible, like, territory lines. You had factions that would literally mark their territory and engage in diplomacy between each other. You had the Syndicate versus the Coalition, and then a second civil war broke out between. It was basically East versus West, and I was lucky enough to be around during that time. That was such an insane moment in gaming in general for me. That is what got me into RP and just set my love for it. I mean, I'm not doing it enough justice, not nearly enough justice in just, you know, this throwaway line. It's just something that you simply have to be there for. It was amazing. It was so immersive. Like that was the first time I'd ever been immersed in a world propagated by the users, you know, by the players. And I didn't think such a thing was possible until I did experience it. So it was I mean, that set my love for the medium. And that's why I think RP is a really important aspect of gaming. Is you know, because of its very vast potential. The threshold for potential, the things you can do with RP, not just, you know, of course, pertaining to DayZ specifically, but you know, you have people doing all types of shit with RP. You have GTA RP, you have Arma 3 Milsim, you have the Milsim genre of RP, you have a bunch of stuff that, you know, people are doing all sorts of crazy things with that formula, with that concept. It's great. But do you have any questions about, like, the antagonist part?
I
I think we're
do.
talking, right?
I have a list. So I guess
Go
my
ahead.
first question would be like, for you personally, do you have like a mindset that you have to get into when you're playing an antagonist?
You mean, like, so just to understand it better, do you mean like go out of my way, out of how? What was that? My God. Do you mean that I have to go out of my way to, like, prep myself, or, you know, take time to get into a certain mindset where, you know, I'm ready to commit horrible acts, or, like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Like, do you have to like say you go about your normal day, you know, and then you come home and you're about to get on We That Remain, and you're currently
Right.
playing an antagonist, and maybe you do commit, maybe you're the next tower and you commit like war crimes. Do you have to like sit
Tower.
there and get into like a specific like mindset kind of thing? Like
No.
I'm not good in a sense, even though your character can be molded. Like in that specific moment, do you have to be like, okay, I am not a good person?
No, not really. No. I mean, I love acting. Right. Unfortunately, I mean, hopefully, maybe someday in the future, I'll be able to do actual, you know, acting as a profession. Though it might come. I think it'll come in the form of voice acting.
Twins.
Twins. Oh, you're interested in that medium too? Yeah, the voice acting industry it's a very opportunistic field. But I guess if I were to put a name to the process I go through when, I guess, playing these characters, it wouldn't be so much that I have to go out of my way to make sure that I'm like, I'm in character and stuff like that. It's I take and I mean, this might sound a little bad, but I take the negative aspects of my character, my personal character, and I simply amplify them just a bit to help myself out with that. Not only that, but I have a firm understanding of what I'm doing, because again, I'm capable of performing in that role. So it's not so much that I have to go out of my way, it's more so that I know what I'm doing.
Right.
So I'd say that I think I'd be lying if I said that I didn't like to sort of, maybe not fantasize, but like rasm in certain outcomes, like potential outcomes. Normally they're sort of fantasy, but as a iteration progresses and I'm playing out this antagonistic character, I'll play through scenarios that haven't happened yet, but hypothetical scenarios in my head of potential outcomes for my character with interacting with other characters. Like say I'll have I mean, there's always going to be opposition, when you're the antagonist. You'll have no shortage of people that want to, see you dead. But, I'll have someone that I know has come into, conflict with me fairly often enough to, to sort of garner my personal disdain for that person. I'll make imagery in my head, of a way that I could dispatch of them, something that would make sense for the character, not just simply like, I'm going to go up to you and ambush you and I'm going to do all this crazy shit before I kill you. I'm going to go on this huge cartoon villain monologue. No, I don't do any of that. No,
right.
I don't do that. I develop strategies for how I want to approach a situation that would make sense for the character I'm playing. It's not enough to simply just chalk it up to, let's just go ambush them like bandits and take all their shit and then kill them. That's too simple. That's not. I mean, obviously, if you're playing a bandit character, I guess that would make sense, but it's so shallow. I think that's incredibly shallow. You have every opportunity to be creative with how you approach your character, and I think, again, you're only doing yourself a disservice if you don't make use of that dynamic. There's far too many opportunities for you to explore your character for you not to take them. Again, you're just dragging the RP down if you're not utilizing it to its fullest. And that's one of the reasons why I make every character I make, I try and make at least somewhat impactful in some regard. I never make a throwaway character. Never make a throwaway character. Never. They're always a substantial character. They have substance. They have character to them, right? They're not just a cardboard box. I did not get their personality from a cardboard box. It's something that I think that, again, when you're playing a totally different person, it's important that you give them the traits that every person should need if they are going to be a real person. Otherwise, you're probably just going to be playing out an NPC, right? On a one-track, mind. Like you're coded to only one thing, and that's not fun at all. What's the fun in it if you don't explore, to some degree. So, because naturally, in a world where survival is king, you're going to explore the different options that you have, for survival, the different ways in which you can go about surviving. So, yeah. It was a very extended answer, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So would you say, not to name any names, we don't have to do that, but have you seen people in the past iterations and stuff who have not done such a good job at playing a villain, whether it's, maybe they're too corny or, some of the stuff you said, like, you know what I mean?
I do. So I can't I don't think I can remember any of these people because, I mean, this is going to sound really arrogant, but I can't be bothered to remember the names of those people because of how forgetful their characters are. You know, like they're just not worth remembering because their performance was so bad. You know, it was not memorable at all. And I think that in RP, you know, I mean, I don't know why anyone would go out of their way to make their characters intentionally unimpactful. I don't understand that. You know, if there isn't any substance to your character, it's not a character now, is it? It's a caricature.
Right.
So I don't see how that can be fun. How you know, playing someone that is very narrow-minded can be fun. I mean, again, there's going to be no consequence dealt unto you for exploring. You know, like I mean, aside from, you know, dying in a game, I'm saying there's not going to be any real world consequences for being, you know, adventurous. So why not? You know, like, why not make something exciting of yourself? So, but to answer your question more directly, I've met my fair share of caricatures. Let's just say that. I've met more than my fair share of people that have tried and failed miserably because either A, they took themselves way too seriously to the point where it's just like, I can't. There's no way I could even look at you without like laughing at your face because of how bad of a performance. Like again, it goes back to your acting capabilities. Like how good will you be in pulling this off? You know, pulling this character off. Don't role play any characters that you're not going to be good at role playing. Don't. You're going to make an ass of yourself, and you're going to bring down the RP. It's just it's not going to happen. Stick to what you know, and then over time, as you build your knowledge and experience, then you can get a little bit more, you know, explorative. So it's important to, I hope I didn't just contradict myself there. I was encouraging that people become adventurous, but I mean within the parameters of what they're capable of, right? And then
right, yeah, exactly.
Once you master certain things, then you can take it to the next level and prove to yourself, you know, and to the people around you that you are capable of what that style of RP, you know, entails. Now it could be anything, but it all has to do with what you're specialized in, like what kind of what kind of character you're good at playing out. And it's simple, like the antagonist character, the antagonistic role, it fits far too few people. But yeah, I again, I can't put any names to any of these characters, but a lot of, I think a lot of my negative experiences with wannabe villains, you know, come from Red Dawn. Actually, more so than WTR. there have been some on We That Remain, but I think I'm remembering a lot of them from Red Dawn. So, but yeah, there's far too many of them to count.
Yeah, I have run into people somewhat who have like claimed themselves to be like villains or bad guys, whatever you want to term you want to use.
Right.
And I felt like some of them were kind of just like you said, they're just trying too hard. You know, like they're not like, to me, a good villain is scary, and the like people who have called themselves villains, I have never found scary. I'm just like, okay, you're doing you. But there's this one from last iteration. There was a character named James. Not sure if either of you are familiar. They were with like Metallurg and Mogilevka, and I never had like called them a villain or like a bad guy. But at one point during the iteration, they had been kicked out of Mogilevka, And then the one night they came back, and it was just my character Kat and Robot's character Jean. And they were sitting inside the barn, and James came back and was like, sitting there and talking through the wall, and had suddenly gone like crazy. Like their character had grown to this point where they lost their mind. They were like abusing drugs or something like that. And like this is like such like the way that you describe like making an impact. Like I will never forget this, because the player took their hand and like knocked on their wooden desk like they were knocking on the walls of this barn. And I don't think I'm pretty sure they died shortly after, so they didn't get to play out this antagonistic role. But that one moment like solidified it for me. I was like, that's like a good villain. Using not only the tools around you, but stuff like that.
Right, but what made him antagonistic? Besides the fact that he just lost his mind. I mean, did he do anything that would earn him sort of that, like, that sort of spot in that category as a villain?
From what I remember, I could be wrong, don't quote me on this, they left and then they joined a cult that had then started to stalk Mogilevka.
Okay.
And I think I don't know if the intention of this cult was to be evil, but I think at that point, like, that character had become antagonistic, at least in my eyes, because they were like, well, I'm watching you, Kat, like, we're watching you, and then this cult started like stalking the people who lived there. But then I think it kind of fizzled out, because one, it was getting closer to the end of the iteration, and two, most of them had died. So I don't think they really got to meet their full potential. But I just think the idea of making an impact, that made me think of that.
Absolutely.
That was terrifying.
I mean, I can't say that I've ever been afraid of anyone before, like any individual character. I've been afraid of their potential, right, like what they're capable of, but not so much someone's performance. I don't think I've ever been really intimidated by it. I've been intimidated by, again, like this sort of, I guess, their reach, how much they can impact my character, how much they can influence the environment around my character. And normally it's always for the worst for me. Excuse me. It's always going to be something that I look forward to, but I haven't seen yet.
Right.
I love seeing people's performances, but none have scared me. So, but now that you talk about it, I'm actually quite interested to see if anything like that will ever happen. I don't know, but I think again, I think that whole fear aspect comes in from it comes from a place of fear for my character, so more rather than a fear of someone else's character.
Right. I guess that leads me to my I guess it doesn't really lead, but my next question would be like, do you ever feel bad when you play like an antagonistic character? Like, I guess like outside, like after you go to sleep, you log off, you take your headset off. Do you ever like have that moment of like, damn, I was kind of a dick? Like, do you ever feel bad afterwards?
No. Why? No. No. Again, we're two different people. I'm acting. I'm playing a character. I don't feel bad for anything that goes on in game, because not only is it just a game, but that's not me. My actions in game, in character, are not indicative of my IRL personality. They're not in any way intrinsic, or none of those traits are endemic in my character. I mean, again, I do possess negative characteristics, like everyone. Everyone's capable of being a douche. Everyone's capable of being an asshole. But the things that I do in game, no, never, absolutely.
Interesting. Not. That's a cool answer, because I like myself. Not that I don't think I could ever play a villain. I think I had said this earlier, just because outside, like I would feel too bad. Like if I like in character acting it out, I could be like, oh, I'm big, bad, and evil. I'm gonna torture your character and then let you go with a warning. But then outside, once I'm done, and like I'll be laying in bed, I'll be like, man, that was kind of mean. Like I feel like I would just feel so bad all the time if I played a villain.
Right. I think, well, let's see. I think pondering the nuance of it is pretty important. I think, I think, you know, reminiscing and kind of reflecting on what your character did is a really good way of learning for, you know, future use. Again, it's all about building that experience. In coming to an understanding of what you are capable of as a player, you know, and playing out certain character roles, and in sort of growing that portfolio. I personally, I strongly advise against getting emotionally attached to any characters that you play, because again, you cannot blur the lines between reality and fiction. In fantasy, you know, in what you see on a screen. So, just understand that you are playing a character, that you are someone else entirely, right? That, you know, despite what you do in game, it should not directly translate or even sometimes correlate to who you are as a person IRL. So, I mean, it can. Like, I'm not saying that you should never play as yourself, but I discourage it, you know, because, I mean, you're yourself every day, every single day, every minute of every day. So why would you play as yourself? I think that's very boring, and I think that would probably create more conflict OOC, to be honest, because I've seen a lot of examples of people playing themselves in game, right? And like absolutely no deviation from their IRL character versus the one that they're playing, you know, as. And it's created a lot of OOC drama and revealed a lot of people to just be assholes. And I mean, I guess I'm serious. Like
I believe you. I get what you mean.
It's pretty crazy, you know, just how many undesirable people, you know, and tasteless people are among us.
Right. I don't understand how people can like play themselves. Like I get it's like, you know, the easy way out, or like maybe if you're new to role play, it can seem easy to play yourself, but like I just feel like, you know, if you die,
it's also
like,
very effortless.
Yes, exactly. What is the best memory you have as a villain?
So, I've actually never thought about that, ever. I don't think I've ever given that thought. Here, hold on. Sorry, I'm doing something right now.
No, you're fine.
So, I think that my most... I don't even... Again, I've never given this thought before, so I'm not sure if I even have one. There was an interaction I had with... what was his name? I'm sorry, I'm like at a complete loss. So I had an interaction with a player, or you know, a character as Kendon in 2.0. His name was what was his name? Connor Mueller. Okay, so this was right around the time when Kendon was sort of getting together this coalition of his own, right? He and we'll get into that in a little bit more after, but he was doing business with this character named Connor Mueller, who ran a trading outpost out of Black Mountain Castle next to Krasnostav. As Kendon, of course, Kendon had him actually carry out various executions on the factions that united into one community in Severograd. They were I forgot the abbreviation, but the I think the name was the United Severograd Communities, or the United Communities of Severograd. I think that second one is the UCS, the United Communities of Severograd, which I think comprised of about maybe 5 total factions. He killed every single one of them. He killed all of the leaders. He killed every single one of them because I convinced him that they would only serve to impede our progress moving forward, because they refused to aid us, because they refused to join us. So, and I had basically just used him as a means to an end.
Oh my god.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that out of everything that I did in that iteration, which there was a lot, by the way, I think that sticks out to me as probably the most, I think the most manipulative and conniving thing I've done. And that's saying a lot, too, because I literally, I was the perpetrator of so much misinformation. I perpetuated so much misinformation that it started 2 wars.
Oh my god.
It literally started 2 wars, and one of those wars resulted in a complete faction obliteration. Like one of those factions just completely just dissolved. There was 3 wars that I started in total, but 2 of those 3 were I was not a part of directly. I had a big part in kicking those off, but I myself did not, in my faction, did not directly participate in the fighting in those 2 wars. It was only the third and final war, actually, of the iteration that myself, that Kendon Landa and the Phoenix Order, as cringy as that sounds, it's the faction that I ran. That was its name. Not my name, I didn't give it that name, but the Kendon Landa and the Phoenix Order fought against the Brotherhood of Darkness. Another pretty cringy name. But yeah, that was the Siege of Devil's Castle, actually, and we won. We won that, but Kendon actually ended up going into self-imposed exile after being betrayed. So, which isn't hard to believe, because, I mean, people wanted him dead constantly throughout the entire season. You know, but it's crazy to think that after all those months of doing the things he did, he outlived every single one of them. Every single person that tried to kill him, he outlived.
Wow.
He didn't win, per se, and I wish I had it saved, but I made a journal entry that was pretty damn good. But I remember ending it off at writing that in the end, the peace I was fighting for was completely inaccessible to me, right? Like, it was like, you know, and this was, you know, as Kendon, you know, I was writing a journal entry, but he failed to acquire the peace he was fighting for. At least that's how he saw it. And of course, this was through his own skewed perception of how things were actually taking place. I mean, he knew very well what he was doing, but he kept lying to himself, saying that, hey, this is going to amount to something truly spectacular. You know, it's going to be mutually beneficial for all, you know, all civilized people. You know, and I mean, it doesn't matter the methods. What matters is the conclusion. You know, what matters is the results, and we all know that's not true. So, but I guess Karma had other plans, and he survived. He outlived everyone, and he survived throughout the entire iteration. And
oh my gosh!
I never play characters that have died, so that's one of the reasons why I'm reprising my role as Kendon Landa in this iteration now. Just of course with, you know,